Hey everybody, welcome back to another round of Canje Plays, and today we continue on with our next segment of Mr. President. We finished a round that was pretty rough, and we're moving into the next stage, which is the Ally Rogue stage group actions. And what happens on that is there are these four tiles that in setup, and when I do my setup video, you can refer to how this is done, but there's four of them. You shuffle them and then you place them on this track, and as you hit each one of these segments, you flip one over and see what they're going to do. So without further ado, let's dive into it. We're going to flip our first one, which is C, that's going to act. So at that time, we are going to take this lovely ally and rogue states piece here. It says group A, rogue action A, B, C, and D. C is going to be on page 8. So we're going to follow page 8 and dive into what that is. Once again, I would love to flip this open and show you all the stuff that's in here that we're going to be dealing with and whatnot, but I kind of want to respect the devs a little bit in terms of them being very adamant about not showing the pages. However, if they ever do choose to say no, it's fine, and reach out and say it's fine to share, by the time we get to year 2 with these episodes, I'm probably going to start sharing them at that point. But I just kind of want to respect them a little bit in terms of what they're doing. So let's dive in. So it says on C, on the Ally and Rogue Nation action chart, these allies act only in their region. So when it is this allies group's turn to act, which it is right now because we're on this first half of this segment, we activate Australia. Note, any ally relationship very close equals 2. 2 joint actions, close equals 1 joint action, and estranged equals 0 joint actions. So right now with Australia, we are very close, so we are going to get 2. So let's take a look at that. All right, so if we look over at Australia here, we'll see that Australia is set to very close, so we get 2 joint actions. So it says perform a number of joint actions. Number of actions is determined by the allies' relationship and then adjusted by any -1 or +1 AP markers on Australia. So as you can see, there isn't any, so it's 2 joint actions. Sweet. The possible joint actions you can choose are listed below under possible joint actions. Whoa, that's super easy. All right, so when we're finished with joint actions, we flip over all tension counters on Australia, reveal their numbers, and then deal with what's going on with that. So right now, we have no tension counters on Australia, so far, we are okay. So, possible joint actions. We can do an intel action, so locate any terror group in the region, choose the terror group, then place that group in the gather intel box in the region, or if you were already on the intel track, we would move the group to the next of it. We could do a raid, which make our SOF. All right, so SOF is Special Forces. Why is it called SOF? I don't know, but so it's a Special Forces set that we can have on our sheet that just kind of lets us know. So it's Special Operations Forces is SOF. So I'll add that to the glossary because I just learned that. So yeah, the acronyms here are Flying Furious, and we need a glossary to break those down. So I'll add that to the glossary. So there are Special Operations Forces that are there. So it says that make 1 Special Operation Force raid attempt against 1 terror group in the region to fix them, to basically set them to target fix on the intel block. We can attempt to stabilize the region by rolling a d10 and determining what's going to happen. We can reinforce if the allies, if we're at war, it would be bad. We could de-escalate if there's a conflict going on. We can request UN humanitarian aid, or we can remove stress, so remove up to 2 tension counters from an ally that's in the region. So right now, I believe the Republic of Korea is very close, so they are considered an ally, and we could try to remove tension from them. So let's go and do that. So my first ally joint action is going to be, let's see. So it just says, so we're just going to remove 2 stress. So these are our ally. We're just going to remove these 2 stress counters from them and be cool. So that's 1. Our second one, we can do, a unilateral action table to where we just kind of roll and see how we do in terms of summits to remove China tension counters. We can stabilize the region to raise the region crisis level or lower it. We can increase non-China regional trade to remove influence. Ooh, I like that. I like that. I like that a lot. Let me think about what I want to do and we'll be right back. All right, so from what I've learned, we have to do the joint actions first. Then we do the unilateral action table. Then we activate Israel, we activate India, and after we do that, we go to rogue states and see what's going to happen there. So we have one more to do. I think I'm going to get that number 2 terror group. Basically, we're going to do some intel. So auto success, 1 max, so this will be my second one. Locate any terror group in the region, choose the terror group, then place them in the group intel box. We're going to grab this terror group 1 and we're gathering intel on them. So that's my 2 joint actions. After we finish our joint action, we then flip over all tension counters on Australia to reveal their value. There's no tension counters there, we're good to go. Then we're going to make a D10 unilateral action die roll and see what they're going to do. So we're going to find our D10, which is here, and we're going to roll and see what we'll get. We got a 3. So on a 3, -1 to the regional crisis. So we're going to move this down 1 to 0. Fantastic. Then after we do that, apply results from unilateral action die roll, then remove all of Australia's flip tension counters and replace them. There are none. So woohoo. Then we activate Israel. So let's activate Israel in the same manner. So first we check Israel is very close. So they are very close, which means we'll get 2 joint actions from them. So it says, use the same procedure described except for Israel. So we get 2 joint actions from them where we can gather some intel. Yeah, because this sucks. So let's do that. That's one of them. And then the second one is to remove stress from an ally. Well, they are 1. Let's get that stress counter off of them. So that's my 2 joint actions. Then we're going to roll on the Israel table to see what's going to happen. We roll the 4. So joint training with U.S. Improve 1 box of relative strength on Iran, Israel, or Israel neighbors conflict chart. So let's take a look at that. So on this chart, we have Israel neighbors, or we have, where's Iran and Israel? So it says what we can do with that is improve 1 box on relative strength. I think we're going to move this in favor of Israel from Iran. I think that's going to work. We're going to bump that up just 1 right there. And that's what we're going to get for that. So we took the 2 actions. We rolled the die to see what was going to happen next. And then we did it. So now our third one is we're going to do India. So let's take a look at India. Okay, India is just close. So India is going to get 1 ally action that's going to happen, and that's all that's going to be there. So let's, my 1 ally action, we're going to remove that tension, get rid of it. Then we have to roll our die and see what's going to happen with India. So let's see. I rolled a 5. So on the India side, 5, increase economic impact with Asia Pacific. So remove 1 China or Russia influence counter from Asia Pacific. Oh, so we get to get rid of this. That makes me happy. So we will take out that China influence. There's no Russia influence there, so we're okay. All right, all right. So after we complete that, then we, after Australia, Israel, and India activations, we'll then go to the rogue state sections below to determine what action each game-created rogue state performs immediately from highest to lowest rogue state. If there are no game-created rogue states, encounters on the map skip this step. So on the rogue states, it says skip if there are no rogue state counters on the map. Well, I believe we do have 1 rogue state one, which is over here, level 1, that's at war in Central South Asia. That is the only rogue state we've got, so it is going to activate. Perform the process below for each rogue state counter on the map. So if level 1 or 2 is at war, we're going to do this, roll a d10. And from that d10, we'll determine what it's going to get. So I rolled a 7. On a 7, it's going to get +1 strength. Okay, so perform the process. If 1 do only A. Okay, so it says +1 strength. Also, if current war type is combined air ground and rogue state is not winning, roll a d10. All right, let's take a look at that. All right, this is where we come to this map. And this map is important because it says +1 to its strength. Right now, the strength of the forces in that war is against the Taliban is 6. We're going to change this from a 6 to a 7. So this will get upgraded to a 7 for +1 strength to it. And then also if the current war type is combined air and ground. So this is the war that's going on against the Taliban in that rogue state area. And the conflict type, as you can see here, is combined air-ground war. So it says if the current war type is combined air-ground and the rogue state is not winning, we're at a stalemate presently. So if it's not winning, we're going to roll a d10, and on a 1 to 5, they're going into guerrilla warfare more in their favor. So we got to roll that to see what's going to happen. So we'll grab the die. We're going to roll d10, and we're going to see what we're going to get. I rolled an 8. So on a 1 to 5, change conflict type to guerrilla warfare. So it's still at a stalemate, but they are gaining strength in the region. This is kind of apropos. So then we're going to do a check, I believe, on final action. Check unstable states. So let's see if these unstable states are going to divulge into civil war or rogue states, or see what happens. All right, so roll a d10 once for each unstable state counter in the Middle East and Africa. So Africa has 2, the Middle East has 2. So we're going to roll a, we're going to roll a d10 and see what happens. So let's start with Africa. First roll is a 10. So when that happens, it says flip unstable state to civil war. Uh-oh. And then we're going to roll the other one. A 10. Come on, game. Awesome sauce. Awesome. Cool. Wait. If regional stability is here, is less than 5, they get +1. So that's actually an 11. If that's an 11, this is removed. Both of these are removed, and they go from unstable states to rogue states. Oh boy. Oh boy. Yay. That's what I wanted. I wanted to roll 2 10s because that's how good I am. The Middle East, we got 2 unstable states going on as well. First one is a 10. Come on. Well, they're at least, nope, their regional stability is a 4. Sure. I guess I'm just supposed to roll, I'm supposed to roll 10 for all these rolls, so 6 + 1, that's a 7. Keep unstable state on the map. So, yeah, the world is going to pot. Awesome. Awesome sauce. All right, so that's the end of that. Now we're going to do our cabinet focus. So, if you can recall, let's move up there and see it. When we first started, we set this focus. So now we're going to go through this focus and basically see how these are going to play out. And how we do these focuses, we go from 6 all the way down to 1. So it's not 1 to 6, it's 6 to 1, and we'll see if we're successful or not. All right, so our first one is going to be Homeland Security. Sweet. So on Homeland Security, we're going to roll a d6, and the only way to gain a success is if we roll a 1. I'm going to take this to the dice tray because I rolled 3 10s to start freaking civil war around the world. So let's go to the dice tray, Kim's dice tray, to see if I can do better. Okay, so we need a 1 for a success. A 1. Yeah, that's exactly what we need that we're not going to get, and that's going to be a pain in the butt. So just let me recheck the rules to make sure I play this correctly, but it's going to hurt. Yeah, so here we go. Oh, success! What? That was a success. So for Homeland Security, decrease 1 terror group in US by 1 level. If none, +1 to Homeland Security and -2 to public approval. Awesome. So Homeland Security goes up, but public approval goes down because we got tighter on Homeland Security. I'm not mad about it. It's a success. So our Homeland Security here will go up 1, and our public approval will go down by 2. Oh boy. Well, at least it worked, right? It worked. We don't have any in the So we don't have any terror groups in the U.S., so we're okay. So we're okay. We're okay that way. All right, let's go to the next one. So this one's finished. I'll push it over here to say it's done. Our next one we're focusing on is public press. So on a 1 to 2, we gain a success on this one. All right, so on a 1 to 2, let's see what happens as we roll. We rolled a 4, so we failed that one. Sadly, we don't get to have the effect of that happen, unfortunately. So that press one did not work. We'll move that over here. So that's not going to help. We move to 4, which we need a 1, 2, or 3 to make it work. So let's go back to the dice. All right, let's see how we roll. Another 4. I'm going to be rolling full 4s for the rest of the games, or I'm going to roll 6s from now on. That's just how this goes. But that's a fail, so that's not going to work. Well, bummer. That doesn't work for 4, so we don't get to do that. 3 is going to be the economy. We need a 1 to 3 for this to work too. All right, we're going to roll, see how we do. We got a 2. 2 is good, so that's a success, and we did that for the economy. So we're going to place 1 improving economy counter on the U.S. Track. So we're going to take an economy improving counter, and we're going to place it on the state of economy track because we did pretty well with that. All right, that is 3. Now we're going to... Yeah, because we're going to go to all of them. Now we're going to 2. We need a 1 to 4 for cabinet effectiveness. So let's see how that goes. All right, so we need a 1 to 4. Hopefully we can roll well. We rolled a 6 because that's not what we need at all. Awesome. So that's a failure. All right, well, our cabinet effectiveness not going anywhere. Finally, improve relations with Congress. We need a 1 to 5. So you know what I am going to roll and what I don't need to roll. All right, let's roll it. Let's just get it over with. What did I tell you? What did I tell you, game? What did I tell you? Yeah, that's a big old failure, and that's done. Cool. Yep. If we had any tension counters on here, we would deal with the tension counters as they came out, but so far we didn't. Okay, so that was the end of that. We finished that phase, so let's take a look at what happens next. Next, we move to the -1 box media relations, 2 domestic actions and legislative segments. So let's see what that means. First, it says that the media relationships degrade with passing of time, so automatically this goes down 1. That's just the first one, just -1 to it, straight up. Then we finish off with performing 2 domestic actions, which is what's on here. So we get to do 2 domestic actions to try to mitigate the awfulness that is occurring in our world. All right, our first action is going to be to encourage bipartisanship in Congress. So increase our ability to introduce and pass legislation during any segment, which is what we're going to do. It's going to cost 1 action and 1 AP. We're going to roll a d6 and see what happens. So we're going to decrease the AP from 9 to 8, and then we're going to roll a d6 and see what comes out. We rolled a 4. On a 4, no effect. Cool. So that was one of our actions. Our second action, we're going to try to improve relations with Congress, and that's 1 action. We could spend an AP to do a dice roll mod. Right now, our relationship with Congress is sitting at a 5. So we get +1 to the die roll. That's not great. That's not great, but that's all we got. So we're going to try to improve it and see what happens. So we're going to roll a d6 and see what happens. All right, so we're going to add +1 to the die roll of what we got. We rolled a 3, which is going to be a 4. So 3 would have been great. 3 would have been fantastic. You want to know what 4 does? Nothing. Nothing changes, and that's the end of our 2 domestic actions. All right, the next thing we do is the legislative segment. So let's talk about that. Okay, so to perform a legislative segment, we come over to the legislative track and see what it's going to, this is where our friends and enemies in Congress are going to hit us. So we come over here and we're trying to see if there are any pending bills that are in Congress that we're trying to pass. They aren't any to start off, but we're going to work towards getting some, but right now they aren't any. So if we're going to skip that because there's no pending bills. Then we're going to attempt to pass a pending bill, but there's none there, so we skip that step. Then we'll sign or veto bills. No bills there, so we skip that. Add legislative friends or opponents. So if I pass and sign a landmark bill only, I get to add a friend. If it was your bill and your party relations allow a new friend or opponent, if it was the opponent legislation. So we can try to add friends or opponents. Always use the most moderate side of the counter if you're playing an easier game, and the radical side if not. So we haven't passed and signed a landmark bill, so we don't have to do that. Now, how the sausage is made. It says roll 1d6 and refer to the Congressional Maneuvering and Drama Table D6 in the Domestic Charts booklet and apply the results. Make an additional roll if bipartisan cooperation is currently in the leftmost box. So bipartisanship is not in the leftmost box, therefore we're just going to roll the d6 once and see what comes of it. All right, let's roll our d6 and see what comes of it. We rolled a 1. Okay, a 1. Awesome, a 1. Awesome, a 1. What does 1 say? Opponents waver. If relationship with Congress is 5 or 6, move any one bill in the pending bills section by 1 box in the direction of your choice. Let's take a look. We have no pending bills, so yay. But that was a really good roll. That was a really good roll to try to get our legislation passed. However, that's not happening. But here's the meat of it. We're going to introduce a new bill. So remove all bills currently in cannot be passed. Is that what this is? These are landmark legislations. So it's the holding area. So this is the cannot be passed section. So it says remove all bills currently in the cannot be passed box and place them in the unused bills box. You may now voluntarily remove any of your not opponent's bills currently in any box of the pending bill section, because you can never have more than 5 bills in the pending bill section. You'll sometimes want to remove a bill or two that are lower priority to make room for new higher priority bills. The number in the current box in the bipartisan cooperation section is the number of bills that are now introduced. We've got 1. So 1 is going to come in. So if you control both the House of Congress, you choose which bills to introduce. If your opponent controls both houses, choose opponent's legislation for the bills not yet pending or passed that are the highest. If control is split, roll a d6 to see who gets to choose the first bill to introduce. Even you, odd the opponent, then alternate between parties until you've made the indicated number of attempts. Play the bills you or the opponent have introduced in the 0 box of the pending bills track on the board. If there's a split in Congress, place it in the -1. So it's either going to come here. Well, there's a split, but let me read really quick to determine if I claim the House because I got a new friend. Okay, so it's split, so we need to determine who's going to gain control, who's going to pass a bill. All right, here we go. That's evens, that's me. Ha 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 ha, suck it. So basically evens is me and odds is the opponent. So we get to play the bill or bills you or the opponent have introduced in the 0 box of the pending bills track if there is a split Congress. All right, so place the bill or bills in the -1 box if introduced by a party controlled by House and Congress, and +1 if the party controls neither House or Congress. So we are a split party, so we're going to introduce our legislation, which will be gun legislation, because that's kind of what we platformed on. So we're going to grab the gun legislation and we'll put it in the 0 track, and that's what we're trying to pass. All right, so that feels good, what we got, and we can only have 1 bill going because of that. So that'll be what it is. We're going to determine the media result. Total then compare the media ratings of all friends and opponents, then move public approval that number of boxes with a max of 3 boxes in favor if friends net is higher and against if opponent's net is higher. So ties, there's no change. Well, my media coverage on here is 2, and on there's 2, which is 4, and this one's 1. So I am fantastic. All right, so it says total then compare the media ratings of all friends and opponents, then move public approval that number of boxes with a max of 3. Oh, that makes me feel really good. Media is, so they have 1, I have 4. The difference is 3, so I get to move the boxes 1, 2, 3 to 44. So they don't hate me as much. They just say I'm okay, and that's kind of how it goes. Yeah. Also adjust media relations by 1 box higher for +3 or lower for -3. So we had a 3, which is a +3, which is fantastic. So we are going to adjust media relations by 1. Woohoo! That makes me feel good. Scandal investigations. It's time for the POTUS scandal to come into the light. So roll a d6 for each scandal on the scandal tracks, starting at the concluding scandal box. Refer to the scandal table on d14 to see what happens. All right, let's roll our d6 and see what we get. We got a 2, so on the scandal track, a 2. And it's on breaking scandal. Scandal target cleared by contentious Congress. Remove scandal counter from Congress. Move congressional bipartisan co-op counter 1 box to the left. But public airing of administrative dirty laundry hampers an administration, so we lose 1 AP. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I did not have relations with that woman, so we are on a breaking scandal. Okay, then it's the POTUS one does, right? So cool. So it says, I gotta read this one again. Maybe I might be able to lower this. There's some dice roll modification. Remember, we rolled a 2. If I could get to 1, I might be okay. So if bipartisan cooperation is in the rightmost box, it isn't. If bipartisan cooperation is in either of the 2 leftmost boxes, oh dear, that's not good. As you can see here, bipartisan cooperation is in the leftmost box, so that's a 3. Uh-oh, does it go any higher? If relationship with Congress is currently 6 or greater, it is not. If it is 4 or less, it is not. If public approval is greater than 60, it isn't. +1 or +2 of public approval. If public approval is at 30 or 40%, okay. If public approval is less than 30, okay, we're okay. If friends outnumber opponents in Congress -1, so we go back to 2, okay. Then if opponents outnumber friends in Congress, that would be bad. If party relations is 7 or higher, oh, it is at 7, my friend. We get -1. So we go down from 2 to 1. So we're at 1. Scandal target cleared amidst contentious Congress. Remove the scandal counter from Congress. Move Congress bipartisanship counter 1 box to the left. Awesome. So that is where it is. So we cleared our name. We got rid of this scandal, but it cost us bipartisanship in Congress. So we got to somehow try to raise this higher so we can get this bill passed. Oh my gosh. And if it could be bad, we could get impeached for this. So that's actually pretty scary. Okay. Then we adjust bipartisanship cooperation. Examine all friends and opponents. If there are more moderates than radicals, move cooperation right by 1 box. If there are more radicals than moderates, move it to the left 1 box, otherwise no change. There are more radicals than moderates, so it's not going anywhere. Legislative momentum. Perform 1 immediate free action of any type for each of your non-opponents' bills that were passed and signed during this activation segment. You also gain an immediate free action if you confirm the Supreme Court justice, so none of that's going to happen for me. That is just a sad time. Okay, that was awful. So then we're going to go back to the bag of death and draw 1 chit from the bag of death, because the bag of death hates me. It hates everything I stand for. So what did we draw? A level 3 plus cascading event. Let's talk about what this is. So this says when you hit cascading 3, shuffle all the cards in the 3 deck, then randomly draw 1 and apply the results. Unless otherwise directed, place this card in discard. So we have nothing. Let's take a look at the 3 deck so we can see. So we have nothing in the 3 deck, so it's nothing to do, which is okay. We come back down here, you see that plus. Usually you would draw another, but we're not instructed to, so we skip that. And that was kind of a little bit of grace. So then we come down here where we're going to do a focus national intelligence placement. What do we do at that point is we take a focus national intel and we get to place it anywhere on the world stage. Actually, let's stop there. Let's roll back. That's a mistake. So good catch on a mistake. I just caught it reading. If there's no cards in the 3 deck, we have to pull from the 2 deck. So we will grab all the cards from deck 2. Remember, there were 3 of them, and they were all awful. And so we're going to draw 1, this one, put the rest back. I don't know why it would do that, but let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and see what happens here. All right, so when it comes down to it, we are here at the 2 deck where it happens, and it says, make a relationship with Congress check and roll a d10. Subtract 1 if presidential prestige is 6 or higher. It is 6, so we will subtract 1. And subtract 1 if you have Teflon attribute. We do not, so we need to make a check, and whatever we roll, we're going to -1 from that roll. So let's take a look. Our relationship with Congress is 5, so we need to roll a 5 or less. And remember, we -1 to our roll, but we know that doesn't matter, right? So we're going to roll a d10 and -1. I rolled a 7, -1 is 6. Failure. -1 public approval, and move the POTUS scandal counter right 1 box. If there's currently no POTUS scandal counter, same as if what? -1 public approval and move the POTUS scandal counter right 1 box. We don't have one. If there's currently no POTUS scandal counter, same as for crisis deck. That's weird wording. I need to go look at the errata on this. I assume if there is currently no POTUS scandal counter, same as from crisis deck. That seems to be a mislabel. I'm just going to say nothing happens because I don't get it. But this is going to move from deck 2 to deck 3 now. Okay, now we get to place our focus on the world stage. So let's take a look at the world and see what's there. All right, so we've got rogue states all over the place. We're going to focus national intelligence here to try to... the Middle East is probably in a bad way. Let's do it in the Middle East because we're at war with the Taliban. So let's make sure that we do our focused intelligence bit there, and we should be good. And once again, I have to make another correction. When the game started, I was supposed to put a focused national intelligence counter on here, on this location, and I didn't. So this isn't placing a focused national intelligence counter. It's rolling to see if it's effective. So cool, cool. So we're gonna roll on the focused national intelligence collection table and see what that gives us and how that responds. If our strategic recon intel gathering strategy capabilities is higher than both Russia and China, and it is, we get -1 to that roll. If cyber warfare strategic capabilities higher, it is not. +1 if either Russia or China has an influence counter in the region and their strategic capability is greater. So nope. So we're going to get -1 to this roll, and we're going to roll this d10 and see what happens. All right, don't expect much from a dice roll, so that's a 7. We're going -1's a 6. So it says effective effects on terrorism. Move a level 3, 2, 1 in that priority terror group in the region to the locating box. Oh, not bad. All right, so we're going to move a or 1 level 3, 2, or 1 in that priority. Well, you know, right now we've got 2 level 2s. We've got a 3 there that's already there, so we're just going to move it to locating. So that's the priority status. So 1 of them gets moved there, and we're locating them. So we can probably attack that level 3 group in short order. That wasn't bad. That wasn't bad. That actually was a pretty good movement on that one. So that's when this takes effect. So we'll get to reset that later. All right. So we're going to for our 4 diplomatic or the military one, we're going to do direct intel gathering operations against 2 different terror groups. First one. So that's our first action. Select 2 terror groups. For each terror group, roll a d10 and based on what we do. So let's take a look at the world stage so I can show you my plan. So we've got 1 here, which I want to get here. And we've got a level 2 group, which I want to get into gathering. So those are the 2, and we're going to roll a d10 to see what happens. We need a 1 to 4, and we have focused intel there, so we get -1 to the roll. And if there is a U.S. intel advisor counter in the region, there is, so we get -2 for our roll. So let's start with this one and see how that goes. So we don't get to move the one that we'd like, but we get to add this one to the gathering section. So that's our first action. Our second action is we're going to perform a raid or drone strike on a terror group. So destroy or diminish a terror group. So during any activation segment, choose between the following 2 actions. 1, a special operations Force. So we have Spec Ops Force right here in the region. So Special Operations Force raid is on the terror group in the region. So target anyone in, that would be the target fix box, or perform 2 drone strikes. So this one we are gonna, I think this is one we have to do because it's against target fix or locating. Ooh. Before we do that, I think we need to try to do this one more time. So that was our first action. Let's try it again for our second action. All right, so our second action, let's roll. Yep, the 3 isn't moving. What about the 2? Nope, 2 10s. Fantastic. 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 I am not meant to do anything in this region, so I'm just going to stop, and we're going to look at diplomatic relations. Okay, one thing I haven't also been keeping up with is this track, because I've just been placing things. There's a lot of tokens going on. So I've counted the board, and there's 6 Russian influence and only 3 China influence. So that's where the track should be. We need to get that Russian influence down. So we are going to work on removing Russian influence from a segment of the map. So from a region where basically remove Russia or China influence in a region to protect regional alignment with the US. So our third action is going to be to do that. And during any activation segment in which this can do, we can only do it once. Choose a region whose alignment of 7 or 8 and roll a d10. So we need to raise their alignments. If we can deal with this, I think we can work towards getting rid of that next. So how do we get things more trending pro-US? Let's take a look. Let me think about it and see. One other thing we need to do is fix this crisis relief. We've got 2 things in max crisis, so let's spend our last 2 actions to do that. So prevent regional crisis from becoming major crisis, which spawn terror groups and rogue states. So during an activation segment in the diplomatic actions, choose a region and roll a d10 to see if we can decrease it. We're going to do this region first, and then we'll do this region. So Middle East first, then Africa. And yeah, it's just straight rolls, and we need a 1 to a 6. I've been rolling 10s all day. What do I got? Oh, look at that. That's another 10. Anything else you want to tell me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, game? I rolled 4 10s in a row. It says, when it's a 10, increase region in crisis box by 1 box. U.S. involvement worsens the crisis. We're all... Oh, come on. You would not believe me if you didn't see it yourself, so there they are. That's my 4 actions, and that's going to end this episode. Yeah. So we're gonna end the episode here. It was a whole bunch of hobble-baloo fun, and we'll start over with our next set next time. So until then, I love you. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it.